All right. So the question we had was question number 4, and this is the question that we are looking at. Question number 4. So we are given a sole trader, okay, and the information is that her financial year ends on 31st March. So the sole trader prepared the following trial balance, which contains errors. And so this was the trial balance, but it contained some errors. Okay. So this trial balance has got some errors, and we are given the additional information. The additional information is that the value of inventory on 31st March 2021 was included in the trial balance on 1st April 2020. So the inventory was valued at $8,800. Then the other additional information we are given is that on the 30th March 2021, a motor vehicles was sold at a book value of $2,750. So the disposal was correctly recorded, but no entry was made in the account of the purchaser. So the purchaser was expected to pay the amount due on 3rd April 2021. What are we required of doing? Number A, we are required of preparing the corrected trial balance at 31st March 2021. So ideally, we just want to correct the trial balance. So some of the figures that are here on the debit side of the trial balance should not be on the debit side. And those that are on the credit side, they shouldn't be on the credit side. So we want to make the correct entries. And once we are done making the correct entries, we would have done the right thing. So basically, that's what we are doing. Okay. So first of all, we have what we should understand is the rule about the entries in the trial balance. Should all understand that expenses have a debit entry in the trial balance, whereas the we have the expenses have the debit entry, and the assets have the debit entry. The liabilities and others have got the corresponding entry, which is the other entry. That is to say, it has the credit entry. So when you look at the fixtures and equipment at cost, the fixtures and equipment at cost of 300,000, these are assets, okay? Now, being assets, they have got the debit entry, right? They have the debit entry. So what we are going to do is that this balance shall be recorded on the debit side of the trial balance. That's basically what we are going to do. So let me just go to the answer, to the part where you're supposed to answer. So you make entries here, okay? You make entries of 300,000 on the debit side. That is what you should have done, 300,000. You make 300,000, okay, for fixtures and equipment. Then we go to the next, let's go to the next detail, or the next element is of the provisions for depreciation of fixtures and equipment, 120,000. So look at this. The provision for depreciation, this one is a deduction from the income. It should not be debited. Instead, it has to be credited. So this 120, okay, the provision on depreciation, it has a credit entry. It has to be credited, okay? So you push this to the credit column or the credit side. So the provision for depreciation of fixtures and equipment, this 120 should go on the credit side. That is the correct entry. And by doing this, this entry was being awarded a mark, which is just 1 mark. So 120 goes in the credit, on the credit side. Okay. So you'd write this is 300,000. And this is 120,000. Okay. I'm hoping that you are able to see what I'm trying to write using my, this marker of mine. Okay. Then we go to the next question, to the next statement, the inventory. Okay. We have the inventory. Now look at the inventory that we have. What are we given about the inventory? Okay. Someone has noted that. So the inventory that we need to show, we are given that the inventory here is 9,100. But we are told, okay, in the statement that the value of inventory on 31st March was included in the trial balance on 1st April 2020. And the value of inventory was valued at what? At 8,800. That being the value of inventory that we should record with a debit entry. Okay. So the value of inventory that we're going to record is the one for the is this one for the 1st April 2020. Okay, that was valued at 8,800. Okay, so 8,800, that's the value of inventory, and it has the debit entry. You were being awarded 1 mark by knowing that this is the value that you record under inventory. Okay, once you recorded 8,800 under inventory, you are receiving, you are being awarded a mark. So let me do this, I think, so that I do not keep on moving to the right and to the left. Okay. Right. We'll not manage to keep on moving to the left and to the right. So you've already seen the balance sheet, the trial balance. Let me just let me be writing right here and give you the directions on how to make records. Yeah. So we have already said that where am I going to write? Let me just zoom a bit again. Let me further zoom. Okay. So we are being given these entries. So we are told that let me have doctor, and I have credit entry. I'm hoping that now you'll be able to see. So I'm saying that for the first transaction, it will be on the debit side, okay? 300,000. Then the second transaction, this one, I said it was going to be where? On the credit side, like 120,000, okay? Then for inventory, we don't record this inventory because of the adjustment that I'm just from explaining, that you record the inventory on the 1st April of 2020. That was valued at 8,800. And the inventory that we have was of that value, 8,800 for the inventory, okay? And it had a debit entry, so 8,800. Then you also have the trade receivables. The trade receivables are the assets, okay? And I told you that the assets have a debit entry. So you had the debit, the assets or the trade receivables of the value 16,100. So you record this on the debit side, 16,100. 00 like that. Okay. That is for the trade, what's this? The trade receivables. What about the provision for doubtful debt? Now, look, the provision for doubtful debt is on the debit side. Okay, it's just the provision for doubtful debt. It is on the debit side here. But the correct entry for the provision for doubtful debts, the correct entry for the provision for doubtful debt should have been the credit and the credit side, 3,002 like that. Then you come to the petty cash, right? About the petty cash, the petty cash has got the entry of 100. Where do you think the petty cash is supposed to be? Is it on the debit side or on the credit side? I open this for discussion now. Where do you think the petty cash can go? This $100. Anyone? Debit side or the credit side? You can always just turn on your mic and tell us that. What do you think? There is no mention of the names. Okay. So the pet cash?
Debit.
Okay, thank you. So the pet cash has a debit entry. So we're going to record this 100 on the debit side, like $100. Then we go to the bank overdraft. Okay, the bank overdraft. The bank overdraft of the value 11,400. Which one is the correct entry for the bank overdraft? Is it the debit entry or the credit entry? And before we go any further, how do you understand the bank? What do you understand by the bank overdraft? Is it an expense or is it a liability? Okay. Is a bank overdraft
it's a liability.
It's a liability. Okay. So
and
where
it's on
do
the
we
credit side?
It's on the credit side. Thank you. So the bank overdraft goes on the credit side, 11,400, like that. Then we come to the trade payables. Okay. The trade payables, are these liabilities or the assets or something? What are they? Someone cannot hear me properly. Is that true with everyone? You're unable to hear me.
We can hear you clearly, sir. I think it's just his network.
Okay. So the trade payables, are these expenses or liabilities? I hear the network is cutting. I think it's just his network, but you will be fine. The class is being recorded. What do you understand? How do you classify the trade payables?
It's on the debit side since it's an expense.
The trade payables, are they expenses or liabilities? You know what trade payables are, right? Like
Creditors,
the customers.
I think.
Yeah, the creditors, those that have
It's a
supplied to
liability.
you. Yeah, it's
then
a
it
liability.
goes on the credit side since it's a
It
liability.
goes on the credit side. Okay. And the amount is 32. Okay. So this goes on the credit side. I'm hoping that people are following and they are understanding. Is there any question so far? Okay, no question. Let's talk about capital. With capital at 1st April 2020, is this where do you record capital? Is it on the credit side or the debit side?
I think it's debit since it's an asset or something. I don't know.
Okay. Thank you for the attempt. Do we have any other? Okay, Aisha says the credit side. Yes. So for capital goes to the credit side. Thank you. 160,000. The elements of capital go to the credit side. Then, okay. Then we come to credit, the sales. Okay, the sales. Where do we record the sales? Where do the sales go? I think with the sales you already know. Sales, we have been singing about sales every day. The sales have the credit entry, isn't it? 107. We have always been saying the sales have a credit entry. So 107. 49 or 498, you can just finish it up. Okay. Let's come now to the purchases. The purchases, 41,520. With the purchases, do they have the debit entry or the credit entry?
Debit.
Okay, so the purchases have the debit entry. Thank you. So the purchases have the debit entry, 41,520. Okay, that's for the purchases. Then we come to the rent and rates. Rent and rates, 16,000. Rent and rates. Being this one, is it an expense or, is it an expense or? It's an expense. Where do we record expenses in the trial balance? Debit or credit? We debit them. Okay. So 16,000. So you record 16,000 for those. Then we have office expenses. Obviously, since these are expenses, they go to the doctor as well, right? The debit side. 9,000. Is that true? Yes, sir. Then we have the general expenses. They also have the debit entry. That is 81. Okay. 81 and 50. 81 and 50. Okay. Then you have got the suspense. Where do you take the suspense? This is very interesting now. Is the suspense part of the trial balance? It's not recorded. Yes, the suspense is not part of the trial balance. Okay. All right. Then which other entry is remaining? Remember, there was additional information number. Let me show you the additional information. Number 2. Have you seen it? That on 3rd March 2021, a motor vehicle was sold at book value $2,750. So the disposal was correctly recorded, but no entry was made in the account of the purchaser. So the purchaser was expected to pay the amount due on 30 April 2021. Okay, so these are other receivables or other incomes expected, other receivables. Where do you record the other receivables, debit or credit? Do we credit the other receivables with debit? We debit the other receivables, right? Is that clear now with everyone? Hello?
Sorry, sir, I didn't get you.
We debit the other receivables. Okay. The other receivables, so you should have indicated here other receivables, you debit here the 2,000, how much was this? 2,750 under other receivables is a debit entry. Is that clear? So when you're done making these entries, what you do, you can consolidate now both on the credit and the debit side. And when you add everything, what's the total for the debit entry? For the debits, I don't know if you can see my numbers. This 300,000, 8,800, 16,100, 100. That's for the debit side. 4,100, 520, 41,520, 16,000 plus 9,000 plus 8,150 and plus 2,750. That's for the debit side. What do you find? I'm waiting for you to do the calculations.
Uh, 393,220.
393,220. You can start again. 300,000 plus 8,800 plus 16,100 plus 100 plus 41,520 plus 16,000 plus 9,000 plus 8,150 and plus 2,750. What is the closing balance? You command your calculator rightly. Okay. Are people doing the calculations?
403,220.
403,
220.
220. You can try again. Do we have any other?
So what's the
Anyone
first
else?
figure?
The first figure is 300,000. 300,000. 8,800. 16,100. 100. 41,520. 16,000.
Oh, it's 16,000.
9,000.
It's 402,420.
Okay,
I
402.
was writing 16,800.
402, 420. And obviously, even on the credit side, you should find the same figure, 402, 420. Is that clear? Right. So have you seen this? Are you able to follow? Do you have any question? Do we have anyone with a question? Is there anyone with a question so far?
Sir, I didn't understand nothing.
You didn't understand. Where exactly? Everything.
From the starting. I just joined. I didn't understand anything.
You didn't understand anything. Okay, I see. Okay, let's do this. I am sharing the recording. I'm sharing the recording with you because the class is being recorded for you. And then we can start from there. I thought maybe you didn't understand just from a certain part. Yeah. Yeah, I thought maybe you just didn't understand from a certain part. Let's start this other part of the question together. And the obvious, this second one you understand. Yeah. Don't panic, you understand. I'll share with you the recording. And then if you have any challenges next time, we can even start from the recording part. This was question number B. Question number 4B, 2021. And the question read that the sole proprietor later discovered the following errors. Okay, these were the errors from 1 through up to 5.
No.
Someone is saying no. They were not errors. Are they responding to what I'm saying? Okay. We continue. So it was discovered that the sole proprietor discovered the following errors. And so these were the errors that were discovered. So what is required of us is to prepare the journal entries to correct each of the following errors. And the narratives are not required. So in short, we're just supposed to create the journal entries. No need of narrating, okay? No need of narrations of any kind. So that is what we are just expected of doing. We are not supposed to narrate. Okay. Starting with the first one. Let's start with the first one. So in short, when we're talking about the errors, first of all, last time I told you to read the question. When you read the question, you have to identify the two accounts in the question. Okay? Identify the two accounts in the question. Then check which account is supposed to be debited and which one is supposed to be credited. Right. Understand the type of the account that the account that should be debited and the one that should be credited. Okay. You and I understand that we have got different types of errors. So it is very, very imperative that you understand. It's very imperative that you understand that we have got different types of errors. So when you identify the error, then you are able to correct it. Let's have the first statement. All right. The total of the general expenses column of the pet cash book, $32 for May 2020, had been posted to the office expenses account. The total of the general expenses, okay, the general expenses column of the pet cash book, 32 of the value $32 for May 2020 had been posted to the office expenses account. First of all, what two accounts are in this question? What accounts do we have in this part of the question, like in this era?
General expenses and office expenses.
Thank you. The general expenses and the office what? The office expense. So which expense? Which account are we supposed to debit? Which one are we debiting here? Which one should be debited? And which one should be credited? Okay. Right. There is a lot of battles in here. So what you do, you debit the general expenses account. You debit the general expenses account. with the amount 32, they have already written the currency for you. And then this is still error number 1. You can still credit the office expenses, okay? The office expenses account, you credit it with the same amount, okay? Number 2, a payment received $75 from the person in question. A credit customer is a credit customer, okay? Had been credited to the sales account. Oh, let me read it again. A payment received $75 from Anya, a credit customer, had been
So I can't
credited.
understand your handwriting. Can you just please write a little bit cleaner so I can understand? I don't understand the word you're writing. I'm sorry to say, but I can't.
So repeat your question, sir. I didn't get it. Okay. It's like the question is not being repeated. Okay. So a payment received 75. That's the value of the payment from Anya, a credit customer, had been credited to the sales account. Okay. So it has been credited to the sales account. So a payment received of 75 from the person, a credit customer. This one was a credit customer. It had been credited to the sales account. Okay. It had been credited to the sales account. How do we correct this error? Or what 2 accounts do we have, first of all? Let's start from the 2 accounts that we have. What 2 accounts do we have in this error?
Sales and annual.
Okay. So we have these 2 accounts. So which account should be credited in this case? And which one should be debited? Let's start from the one to be debited.
Which account is this? This purchases journal or sales journal?
Okay. We just have the sales account. A sales journal. Right. So you debit the sales, journal with the same amount, 75, and then you credit the corresponding account. Who is this one? Is Anya. You credit the account by the same amount. So when you make any correct entry, you are being awarded 1 mark for that. So the mark is just 1 mark. So in this case, you have 4 marks already by making these correct entries. So now, a credit purchase, $120 from Samia had been omitted from the books of accounts. What error is this one? First of all, what error is this one? Colleagues, you are able to remember the errors. What error is this one? Okay. All right, someone has responded the error of omission. So this was the error of omission. Now, there was a credit purchase of 120 from this person. It had been omitted. So if it had been omitted, the correct entry should have been you debit the purchases account to be debited, by the same amount, 120, right? And the corresponding account being the other person's account. Is this one, Sammy? The corresponding account to be credited, 120. Then the fourth addition, the fourth information that we're given is that there was a check payment worth $19 for office expenses that had been recorded as 91. What error is this one? A check payment, 19, okay, of $19 for office expenses. It had been recorded as 91. What do you call this error? Don't tell me that you've forgotten all the errors. What do you call this error? Okay. All right. Okay, so the error of transposition. So you've seen the numbers have been moved. Instead of writing 19, somebody switched the digits and wrote 91. So to correct the error, you take the difference thereof. Okay. You have to take the difference thereof. Okay. So let's have 91 minus 19. Get one here, you have 8. 11 minus 9 is 2, and that gives us 72. Okay, so we have the difference of 72. So now, which account should be debited here? You have, whenever you have a check, that's the bank account, okay? So which account are we debiting? Is it the bank account or the office expenses account? Okay, so the payment was, listen, the payment was just of 19. Ideally, the payment was just supposed to be of $19, but because of the errors, of an error, it had been recorded as 91, which means that there was an overpayment of 72. Okay, so what you do to correct the error, we have to debit our bank account with the 72 kwacha, which was this increase, 72 kwacha, and the other corresponding account being the office, the office expenses account to be credited by the same amount. Right. An invoice for office cleaning, 235, had been debited to the fixtures and equipment account. Okay, there was an invoice. Someone is saying the network is giving them pressure. Is it from my end? Do I have a confirmation? Hello, are you able to hear me clearly? Okay. So people are saying my network is okay. So I think it should be your network. You can try to work on it. Okay, number 5. So you have 2 accounts in question, the office expenses or the cleaning expenses account and the fixtures and equipment account. Okay. Yeah. So there was an invoice for office cleaning, 235, that had been debited to the fixtures account. Okay. So it had been debited wrongly to the wrong account. So to correct the error, you have to credit that wrong account where it had been credited. It had been debited. So we credit the fixtures and equipment account and debit the office cleaning or the office expenses account. Okay. So the office expenses account, 235. And then we also have the fixtures, which is the corresponding account.
Treat me like Ortiz, don't get me dirty. Love on me, love on me.
Okay. Let me just mute this one. The fixtures, okay? So with the fixtures, you also credit it with the same amount, 235. Okay. So basically, these were the entries that you were supposed to make, and the 1 mark for each of them. So the total mark was 10 marks for this. So you can just be doing this again and again. So this is how you correct the errors, and this is what you should have done, what you're supposed to do. Let's look at the last part of the question. Just the last part of this question. I encourage the class not to be very tired because we are coming to the close of the conversation. We're coming to the close of the conversation. Right. Complete the table by placing a tick to indicate the effect of correcting error 2 to 5, those errors that we had. So ignore the depreciation of non-current assets. The effect of correcting error number 1 has been shown as an example. So let's go back to the error and see what happens. Okay. Let's see what happens to error number 1. Okay. You're seeing the same. You can remember what we did with error number 1. We debited the general expenses account and we created the office expenses account. So when we just did that, then was there any effect? We are supposed to show where the effect was. Did it increase the capital? Did it decrease capital? Or it had no effect on capital? This transaction number 1 had no effect. Okay, it had no effect on that. Then let's go to error number 2 and the correction number 2 that we made. If you remember, the correction number 2 we made is that we debited the sales account and credited the other person's account. So we debited the sales account. What impact does that have when you debit the credit, the sales account? Okay, does it increase capital or decrease capital? Okay, so it decreases capital. And then the third error was we corrected in such a way that the purchases account was debited with 120 and Samir's account was credited with 120. So the question of the day is, does this have an impact on capital? If it does it increase capital or it decreases capital? Hello? You guys are able to hear me? All right. So it decreases capital. And the fourth error is that we debited the bank account, of which that does increase capital. Debiting of the bank account increases capital. Price. And then the last correction that we made is that we debited the office expenses account. The debiting of expenses account and the crediting of office and equipment does decrease capital. If you credit the office and the equipment account, that decreases capital. So this is what we were expected of doing.